presentation on Satanism. I know a considerable amount about different forms. Go ahead and click, Michael. There's three forms of Satanism that I'm going to cover, which are Levian Satanism, theistic Satanism, and the joy of Satan, which is a specific group. Alright, let's first talk about some Levian Satanism. Misconceptions about Levian Satanism is that it involves selling your soul, blood sacrifices, murder of animals and children, that it encourages violence, and that they worship the devil. The Church of Satan was founded by Anton Zandler Debay in 1966, and then in 1969 he published the Satanic Bible, which is kind of like the manifesto of what Levian Satanists usually turn to. He passed away not too long ago, so he's no longer acts as the head of the Church of Satan. That's now Magus Peter H. Gilmore. But the book kind of covers the basis for the beliefs. It's not this type of Satanism doesn't have to do anything really with worshiping the devil. It's more of arrogant atheism is what I like to call it. They pride themselves on intelligence, and some people are the way they don't say it outright, but the way they act, some people are better than others. Their website, for instance, says we're looking for a few good, outstanding people, because it's not for everyone. It involves like black masses, which is pretty much just a giant blasphemy fest, But they take the name Satan because Satan means adversary in Hebrew. They wanted something to go against the church and what that was. But it's all about going and attending to your own basic carnal instincts. Some background on Anton Zandler Debay. He's a musician, or was a musician, and he would talk about how he worked at carnivals at night to earn some money. And back in those days, carnivals were more, you'd see like burlesque type shows a lot of times. He just did it to get some money, and the next day, he'd be playing the church organ, and he would talk about how he'd see people that were at the carnivals watching these burlesque shows, and the next morning, they'd be at church acting all, self-righteous and do-gooder. So, he calls out the hypocrisy of religious people quite a bit, and it's mainly focused around Christianity. They'll say that Satanism is not a reaction towards Satanism. Satanism is what we were born with, basing everything off our carnal instincts. So they don't believe in a God. Well, they have rituals. Actually, one of the books he publishes is Satanic Rituals, along with Satanic Witch. But they follow the 9 satanic statements, which are Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Satan represents man just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. Satan represents all the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, and emotional gratification. And Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had. He's kept them in business for all these years. The book of the Satanic Bible itself is divided into 4 sections. We have, based on the different elements, you have the book of the fire, which is pretty much is set in its biblical-esque type format, just set to blasphemize Christianity. Then you have the book of air, earth, and water, and they're all also named after different personas of Satan, like Lucifer, Belial, and Leviathan. And it goes through the Enlightenment, which is pretty much his point of view based, how much Christianity is wrong, and pretty much emphasizing the Nicene Canon statements. And then you have his, a section on like satanic magic, and his view of satanic magic is not to really get anything from it, although it was often notioned that he knew more than he led on to believe, because a lot of the things was said to be very secretive and keep things to himself, because he would only let so many people into his inner circle. Like for instance, Marilyn Manson was actually one of the few, one of the people that actually got to go with him, and he actually dubbed Marilyn Manson the high priest of the Church of Satan. Whereas, Marilyn Manson doesn't really tend to follow any set of beliefs, but he said, greatly influenced him when he was younger, upcoming musician, and as well as Anton LaVey also claims to have affected Marilyn Monroe's career, and said, apparently, they were together at one point or another, and he called upon something, and that's what made her big. So even though he denies magic and anything really spiritual, it's in his book, different rituals, and he says it's a way. He says that the man needs dogma in order to get through things. That we need something to release everything out of our system. So if there's things for love and hatred, and lust, and it all involves like pentagram circles and lighting of candles and everything. It's a lot of fun, but you can go back. So yeah, it's all about, Levian Satan is about following your carnal instincts, and you make your morals for yourself. They call it itheism, which is I decide. I am my own God. I worship myself. The Satanic Witch is also a really good read. It's all psychology. Anton LaVey studied psychology and numerous topics. He was a very avid scholar all his life, because he prided himself on intelligence and knowledge. It's all about seeking knowledge. And Satanic Witch, I couldn't find my copy, but it's really good. It's about psychology and divides everything into has a dispensation clock, where each number on the clock represents a different kind of person, and also the numbers in between. So someone, like I believe I was classified as between a 4 and a 5, which is more of a dominant person. And it was crazy because I would read this, and I was in high school at the time, and I would try and classify other people, and a lot of things fit. It was more right than it was wrong at a lot of points. So he definitely had something going. And the fun part is he looks pretty. Once he started the Satanic Church, he shaved his head in executioner's fashion, and started wearing all black and wearing the symbol of Baphomet around his neck. But he has kind of like a southern accent. When you watch, like, if you go on YouTube, you can find interviews of him. It's kind of funny. It throws you off. And I don't care for his music style at all. It's a lot of piano and organ music. All right. So now we'll talk about some theistic Satanism. There's so many different kinds of theistic Satanism that, if I were to just go down the list and describe all the different types there are, then we'd be here all night. So I'm going to give you like a brief overview of this, because it's pretty much people that go into theistic Satanism, where you worship Satan as a deity. It can take many forms, because it's pretty much how you have it. Like say that Satan is their God. There's a real spiritual entity whom they revere, and you have people that take it as, well, there is no Yahweh, God, but it was just Satan and he created us. And you have all these. They say that everything, all the different like Abrahamic religions and such, kind of like skewed that view, because they use Satan as a scapegoat. And it says, Satan challenges us to think for ourselves and question all things, to be strong as individuals, to face down our fears, be creative, and to become ever more who we are. It's challenging you to think for yourself, which can be a great positive. And the same things can be found in the Satanic Bible. And I mean, if you Google Satanism, theistic Satanism, or whatever. You find so much information, you just absorb it all. But they believe that Satan doesn't expect specific attitudes and behaviors. So you are in charge of your own life, but there's, you still owe something to Satan because he created you if you pledge yourself to him. Some believe that Satan wants us to regard other theistic Satanists as family, and that he deals with different groups and individuals entirely. So you can see how there's so much fog that when you get into this, Satan's talking to you in a different way than these people, the same way, the similarity that you can have Christianity as well. God speaks to me in this way, and he speaks to them in that way. So it already has made up a lot of excuse of like varying differences in what people are supposed to experience. As public or semi-public Satanists, we're constrained by practical necessity to obey the laws of the land, though we may work for changes to laws with which we disagree. So it goes back to the carnal instincts, the laws of the land. In Anton LaVey's 9 Satanic Statements, it talks about, an eye for an eye, where it's not saying, you don't go just like, hurting people. You shouldn't. He was very big. Satanist is very big on not lying to people, not hurting people. But if somebody hurts you, they have it coming. So it's not bad to fight back. Or if, like an animal is harmed you, the majority is more along the lines of not against hunting and senseless killing. But at the same time, we're like, well, if you're attacked by